Hello and welcome to the United Stand. It's Sunday Night Live. I'm joined by Sophie and hopefully we'll have Flex on the phone as he drives back from the Newcastle loss. Fortunately, you didn't get to see the game this afternoon because you're playing your own game, Sophie, but I can give you a little bit of an update. We lost 1-0 to Newcastle. Pogba went missing. Mourinho, again, still failed to identify I suppose a way of playing for Manchester United 18 months in. Lots and lots of fan cams have gone up. Very interesting opinions. But we'll start off with Paul Pogba. Mourinho said this week that Paul Pogba's a box-to-box midfielder. Played him as a centre defensive midfielder again today. Very, very poor. There was rumours that he was injured. This has been totally quashed by Mourinho, who said it was tactical why he took off. All I would say for somebody who didn't see the game, Sophie, was that if you imagine the Spurs performance and probably take two marks off that, he was really, really bad today. What are your thoughts on Paul Pogba and what he's doing for Manchester United at the moment?
For me, Paul Pogba needs to be given a bit of a free role. We shouldn't be relying on him defensively. He's not a defensive midfielder. You can't trust him, to be honest. So he should be more of a free role, in my opinion. I mean, I went to the Southampton game, and I was on the fan cam after that game, and I stated that I didn't even think Pogba was playing. I kind of forgot he was playing, because purely Southampton were running through our middle like no one was there, and it was because Pogba was pushing on too much. He's not defensively stable enough. He's not, I want to say, responsible enough to do that role. He really isn't. And Matic is then left in there on his own, and people say Matic looks tired, but to be honest, he's kind of doing the role of two there, because Pogba doesn't do that role. And at the start of the season, we were all saying the signing of Matic helps to free Pogba up a little bit, but it hasn't really, because he's still playing in that defensive position when he shouldn't be. He should be further forward, because that's when he makes stuff happen.
Yeah, Lil TV says, embarrassing today, not anyone should get any credit. Paul Pogba, Martial, Smalling were the worst players on the pitch. Obviously, Sophie can't answer that, but I totally agree. Look, let's talk about Anthony Martial. It's a bit of an elephant in the room. I've took a lot of pelters today. People saying I'm deluded about my opinions around Anthony Martial. Look, I watch every Manchester United game, and the reality is, Yeovil apart, who are nearly at the bottom of the Football League, I think Jesse Lingard's been an embarrassment as a number 10. And I'll stick with Pogba for a minute, because I want to stick with Lingard as well. This messy Lingard stuff is embarrassing. If you want to finish 6th every season, then yeah, let's all dab up and down your bedroom and laugh at Lingard dancing around and his silly little 25-year-old antics. He's not good enough for Manchester United. He's not good enough. He had a really good run over Christmas where he scored some great goals, but they're all the same. He picks the ball up, he spins round, he runs at the back four, and he scores a good goal. Teams have figured him out. If he's not going to be on the right wing, he needs to be on the bench. And as a number 10 today, it's a shame you didn't see the game, Sophie, because Sanchez was getting absolutely frustrated with him. He couldn't pass 5 yards. And a number 10 is a player that's got to be able to do that. And I put Pogba in the same situation. Again today, as he was against Spurs. Whether you're injured or not, you've been injured, I've been injured, it doesn't really directly affect your play unless your injury is so bad that you shouldn't be on the pitch. And Pogba certainly wasn't that injured. And I've seen a lot of people saying it tonight. This social media infatuation, I only ever notice it with Manchester United players, specifically Paul Pogba and Jesse Lingard. Mourinho said he's going to have a social media ban, and he's obviously terrified of doing that, or the club are telling him not to do it. Look, I understand that Pogba and Lingard are living the dream, but they're not living my dream at the moment. I'm a Manchester United fan, and their performances on the pitch don't warrant what they're doing off the pitch. And it's irritating. I find the Messi Lingard thing embarrassing and irritating, because we're Manchester United, we're not Everton, we're not even Arsenal, we're Manchester United, and we are celebrating what people do off the pitch and coming up with silly, embarrassing little names like Messi Lingard because he scores a good goal against Yeovil. I mean, what are your thoughts around Lingard and the number 10 position? I know you didn't see him today, but again, I think he's been poor in that position for the last 3 league games. Huddersfield, Burnley, Spurs, and obviously Newcastle today. Offered nothing. Offered absolutely nothing. Lots of energy, knocked off the ball, and nothing creatively.
I said all along, Jesse Lingard was in a good vein of form. He was earning his starting spot. He was scoring goals. And his movement, he just gives a bit of energy to United. But he's not good enough for a number 10, nowhere near. And if anybody should be playing there at the moment, it should be Sanchez. I think we should try Sanchez in there because he makes stuff happen centrally. But Lingard, he was just in good form. Technically, and I got slated for saying this because he was scoring goals and people were saying he's Messi Lingard. But he's just not good enough. He's a squad player, and I do like what he gives, the positivity. But I also said at this time that I like seeing that when we're winning. If we're not winning or if it's affecting the performances on the pitch, then I don't want to see it because that kind of swings to the other end of the scale then where it's kind of annoying. So I think if it's affecting, like if we're not performing, then we shouldn't see any of that. It should be more of a focused Jesse Lingard, someone who wants to try and get his form back up again because he's not obviously hitting that vein at the moment. And as I say in that, obviously class is permanent, form is temporary, and I think Jesse's proving that now that actually he was just in a good vein of form, scored a few good goals, and he was earning his starting shirt at that point. You can't deny that. But now he's not. And if he does play, for me, he should be out wide because he will track back. He works hard, and I would put Sanchez in the number 10.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I want to come to Martial, but we've got a comment here, a super chat comment actually from Mr. United, who said, Manchester United will not succeed by becoming a red Chelsea. To return to greatness, we need to understand the identity of the club. We are failing due to a fundamental lack of loyalty to the badge. If anybody's seen the fan cams or you haven't, go and watch them after this show because there's fans who are at the ground today absolutely furious. Newcastle's a big trip, and they're furious at that thing. I mean, I do want to talk about Mourinho because obviously a lot of people have got opinions on Mourinho, but and some fans at the ground said Mourinho's finished in the Premier League. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's clueless. We have no identity. But a lot of them, I think there was only Michael Carrick, Ashley Young, Phil Jones, and David De Gea who applauded the fans today. Now I wasn't there. I didn't see it, but that's from people at the ground. The big frustration with the likes of Pogba and everybody else is the lack of passion and pride in the Manchester United shirt. And I think that's where social media comes into this. I do. I've bitten my tongue on this for a while, but I think more and more we are seeing a lack of effort and a lack of identity to Manchester United. And 4 or 5 days after the 60th anniversary of the Busby Babes, where most of those players sat in the ground, and we, as fans, many of you have messaged me through the week. I didn't really know what it was all about. That video in Munich from Flex and Jordan really was superb to listen to the old fans. 5 days later, we put a team out and half the team don't turn up. They should be kicked out. They should be bloody ashamed of themselves, but they're not. They'll be thinking about the next dance move they're going to do in training tomorrow. It's a problem. I don't care about retweets or Instagram hits or whatever like that. Ed Woodward does. He mentioned it in the bloody quarterly results the other day. Get out. That is not what Manchester United's about. It's about the badge. That's what it's all about. And I'm getting very tired of the social media world that we live in, because if you're performing on the pitch, I don't care what you do. You can dab naked up Manchester High Street. I don't give a damn. But you've got to give the effort, and the effort at the moment is not there. And it's not just effort. You need to have the ability. To be fair to Jesse Lingard, he does put the effort in, and he obviously understands what Manchester United's all about. But the ability is just not there. And I think, look, that maybe that does come down to Mourinho. Anthony Martial today, Sophie, he missed a chance which I would have put my mortgage on. He's through one-on-one. It's a super pass by Matic. It's probably the one time this season he's passed it more than 10 yards further forward. And defence splitting pass. Martial gets his first touch right. Basically, he's running at the goal and he misses. Some people say it's a good save. Some people say he should have scored. He should have scored. Second half, ball drops to him, 6 yards out. To be fair, people say he should have scored. There was about 4 people on the line. Blocked. Went to hit it again. Blocked. He should have scored today, and we probably would have won the game. But I thought he had a really good first half. It's hard for you to talk about him when you've not seen him play, but Manchester United fans on the watch-along, very angry. 50-50 split. I was defending him. A lot of people getting on his back, saying he's lazy, he's not good enough. The bottom line is, with Anthony Martial, he was on the right wing again today. What's your thoughts in relation to that? I mean, this is a player that has won Player of the Month 3 times out of 5 in the last 5 months. Our best player on the left wing. Our best player in the team for me on the left wing. And we go and buy a player to replace our best player and push him out onto the right.
I felt really sorry for Martial when he got dropped against Huddersfield. Pogba, I agreed with because I thought Pogba hasn't been performing. But Martial was a different story for me. He'd been playing well, and Sanchez comes in, and all of a sudden, yeah. And I think the fact that he's moved in positions as well, I just fear for Martial's confidence. We all know he's a confidence player. You look at last season, he had a really poor season, looked really low on confidence, and it did affect his goal scoring tally. And I do fear for the worst in terms of that. I know he can look lazy, that's kind of his style, isn't it? That's just the way that Martial plays, and sometimes that comes across as being a bit arrogant and a bit lacklustre, like he can't really be bothered. But I think there's no doubt about his ability. I think he's absolutely quality. But maybe it's time to give Rashford another chance, you know? Maybe it's time to give Martial that bit of a kick up the bum because he's not performing. I do feel for him, though, because of the whole Sanchez situation, and I fear that he fears it's going to affect his position in the team. But why not give Rashford a run out? Rashford hit a really poor form. But he must be thinking at the minute, hey, why am I not getting into this United team? Because we're not playing well. And I think, what have we got to lose, realistically?
Rashford may well have started today over Martial. Rashford was injured. Nobody knew about it until just before kick-off. He wasn't on the bench. So and Herrera as well, neither on the bench today. We've got Paul Robinson saying tactically Mourinho is all dried up, antiquated and cannot adapt. He is old news. And Jose is losing. Oh, let's have a look at this. This is from David C. Jose is losing it, saying, I know Pogba best position. He is a box-to-box midfielder, then plays him as a centre defensive midfielder. Jose is becoming a joke rather than play Sanchez in number 10 or play 3 in a midfield. I think he's got the players to do the 3-man midfield. I don't understand why Sanchez isn't playing centrally. Obviously, he said a couple of weeks ago Luke Shaw's one of the best left-backs in the world. Dropped him for Ashley Young. Played him against Huddersfield. Drops him today. Having said Luke Shaw will be here for years. I mean, Jones and Young came back into the team today despite being dropped for Huddersfield where we won and Rojo was arguably man of the match. Rojo was on the bench and Jones and Young came in for Rojo and Shaw. And another interesting thing, let's talk about Mourinho for a bit. Mourinho after the game said obviously wasn't happy that we lost, but basically said it was one of those games. And said in relation to Newcastle, let me get the quotes. It was a beautiful way to play and win. And I can tell you now, Sophie, that our manager, Jose Mourinho, says it's a beautiful way to play and win when you battle, scrape a lucky goal and park the bus. Because that's what Newcastle did today. I mean, if anyone wants to say any different, I'll more than happily read it out. But my interpretation of Newcastle today is they're 11 players that probably deserve relegation. They've got a decent manager in Benitez. I couldn't see how we could lose that game today because they're rubbish. But what they did do is they gave 100%. They got a lucky goal because we were poor in defence. And they parked the bus, pretty much. And they got that. But that's a beautiful way to win.
That's worrying, isn't it, when you hear a quote like that from your manager?
I think it was a subtle way. I think it was a subtle way, a message to the fans that winning is winning. And, you know, because he gets a lot of criticism for winning that way.
Yeah, he does. And, you know, I do back Mourinho. I can't say I don't because I think, realistically, who else is out there to replace him at the moment? Yeah. However, I back the style of play, I really don't. And getting Sanchez, I said all along, we could sign Messi or Ronaldo, but if we keep playing that style of football, then it doesn't matter who you sign. Because we're just too slow. And if you watch teams like, I know people say, oh, it's Man City aren't as good as people make out, but they are. The football they play and the tempo in which they play it at, that's why they score so many goals. And we just don't do that at United. We're too passive and too slow. And that needs to change. So, me personally, I am Mourinho in purely because I don't know who else we're going to get in at the moment. And, yeah, you could say he stabilised us. However, the back today, poor defensively. And he's playing Smalling and Jones, which clearly isn't working. So, there's many questions, isn't there? I mean, he can't be happy watching that as well today. Surely, I didn't watch it, but I've heard many negatives. And at the end of the day, he's Man United manager, so something needs to change. And whether he'll still, I know he's signed a new deal, but I personally can't see him really being here next season. And we can say, oh, he needs backing and from the board and stuff like that, but how much longer are the fans going to put up with this style of play?
It is interesting. It is really interesting. I mean, Paul, I don't want to read all of Paul Robinson's comments, but he does make one that just flashed up in my mind. And there was a fan cam on the channel, which if people haven't watched them, you can watch them after this. And one of the fans said, if this was Van Gaal, we'd lynch him, and Mourinho's getting away with it. I don't understand. I understand what. Look, Smalling got slated. I'm going to try and get Flex on in a minute. Flex slated Smalling, gave him 2 out of 10. I don't get that. I don't think Smalling was that bad. People are trying to blame him for the goal because he gave a free kick away on the halfway line. I mean, it's a 40-yard lofted ball into the box that Matic and Pogba don't jump for. One of them jumps for that. We don't concede a goal. Smalling and Jones, Rojo should have played. I understand why Smalling's playing because he's good in the air, and you've got to have someone good in the air. Fellaini's made a career out of it. But But what frustrated me the most about Manchester United, and I want to throw this out to the live comments as well, because we've spoken about it so often. What is our identity? I mean, when you look at Manchester United, Sophie, do you know what we're playing? Do you understand what our... If you were a player coming into the United team as a prospective signing, would you know how we play, or what our approach to games is, what our starting 11 is? I mean, I know, I don't watch Liverpool, but I know how Klopp sets his team up. I know how Man City do. I know what Spurs' identity is. It's a little bit concerning that 18 months in, and you can't lie, you can't argue with the fact that we won a trophy we've never won in the Europa League. We are second in the league. The progress is there, but in some ways it's almost odds-defying, the progress, because we have no identity.
No, we don't. I mean, if you look at United's evolved, we had wingers, attacking play, flair, and we have none of that. No creativity. We just look so lacklustre. Rather pass sideways than play a risky ball forward. You just mentioned Matic played a great through ball earlier and made a chance from it. We don't make any risky passes like that. We're too slow, too boring. It's like we're scared to make a mistake a lot of the time. It's like we fear if we lose the ball. But United of old, we would play those passes. And if you look at City and Liverpool, I mean, that goal today for Salah, when Firmino did that little flick, absolutely fantastic link-up play. We don't really see any of that at United, and that's what's really worrying to me. We just seem to lack ideas. And the second the team parks a buzz against us, then it's like we kind of rolled our hands up and like, we give up, we can't score. And it's just really worrying. I can't see how it's going to improve under Mourinho, and as much as I hate saying that, but the style of play just doesn't seem to be improving.
Yeah, I mean, he is responsible for that. He is. I as a Mourinho fan, I have to put my hands up and say that. And Forest Dweller quite rightly says, football's a spectator sport. You pay to see a spectacle. Winning isn't everything, especially when you're losing players. What is supposed to be the beautiful game, playing ugly football. And I said that on the reaction show tonight. I think Mourinho's in for a bit of problems if this continues, because we're not Chelsea, we're not Inter Milan, and he had this problem at Real Madrid, and it's a similar problem to United. You can get away with winning trophies for a season, playing a bad way, and we did it last season from January to the Europa League final. We ground out, and it was rubbish. I remember it. Everyone should remember it. And we're starting to get into that sort of period again where it's about results to get second and maybe win an FA Cup, but the football's not great. He won't get away with that for 2 years. He won't get away with that into a third year, and he'll probably leave himself. So he's got to bite the bullet. He's got to change the way we play. We've certainly got the players to do it. Alexis Sanchez is a footballer. Paul Pogba's a footballer. Martial's a footballer. So we've definitely got the players to do it. How do you think he is? Do you think we're going to continue with this static 4-2-3-1? Do you think he will do what a lot of people want us to do, which is get another midfielder in there to free Pogba up and have him as a box-to-box in a 4-3-3, maybe Matic sat there? And very, very quickly, one positive I would give you, although it's a negative, Michael Carrick came on with about 20 minutes to go, and I mean, there's no future in Carrick, he's 36, but it was a breath of fresh air to see a midfielder get the ball and do what you just said there. He was getting the ball and he was pinging it forward 20, 30 yards into people's feet, which we've not done all season. Yeah,
definitely. It's someone with that positive mindset, somebody who's always looking forwards. I mean, I play holding midfield myself, and I just know that it's easy just to play sideways and keep the ball, and it looks pretty sometimes, but it gets to a point where you've just got to go forwards, and we don't seem to be getting to that point. I don't know, it's like we're happy just to keep the ball for the sake of keeping it.
Yeah, it is. It's a weird one. It is a weird one. But I mean, what's the formation for you that you would like to see United playing? I mean, Pogba's the one everyone's talking about, but it's not just Pogba, is it? It's Martial. It's getting the best out of Sanchez. He seems reluctant to do anything about Lukaku. I think Lukaku played well today. A lot of people said he played well. Some of the fan cams said they don't understand why he's playing. Oh right, he set up a few chances, but he got bossed. He's a bit of a divider, Lukaku, but he's not going anywhere. So what do you think is the best way for United to play? I mean, I think the best formation we've used all season has been the 3-5-2, but we seem not to want to do that anymore. I
agree. I like the 3-5-2 definitely, because we've got fullbacks who like to go forwards, and they're feeling a bit restrained. I mean, I know Valencia is very one-footed, but he's so effective going forward, Valencia, and then you've got Young on the other side, or even Luke Shaw, who obviously isn't playing, but I'd love him to be playing. In the summer, I think Mourinho will sign a midfielder if Mourinho's here next season, but I think he'll get a midfielder and hopefully free Pogba up. I think that's the way forward, because we'll get the best out of Pogba that way. not relying on him going back the other way. Who that midfielder will be, I'm not too sure, but I reckon someone in there with Matic to free up and sturdy us a bit more in the middle. So that's the way I think I would go, and I think that's what Mourinho will be looking to do. So yeah, I think a holding midfielder.
Definitely. Okay, let's have a look at the live comments. Louis says, Michael Carrick's passing length is incredible. He knows what's around him and is so composed. Underrated and underused by England, and unfortunately coming towards the end of his career, there's just no future in Michael Carrick, but it was nice to see him doing that today. I mean, Scott McTominay won't know. Scott McTominay got thrown on with about 10 minutes to go, and I still don't understand what McTominay's attribute is. I'm starting to worry about what his attribute is. I've always thought that he's obviously got something because Mourinho keeps using him, but Mourinho keeps using Fellaini, and you know, maybe McTominay's got nothing about him, but I felt sorry for him. You know, we're trying to get back into a game 1-0, and he brings McTominay on for Matic, and he was bullied. His flick-ons were rubbish. He looked like a little kid lost, and I felt sorry for him that Mourinho put him into that situation. But the midfield is really, really concerning at the moment. Zane De Silva says Jose should change his style. We need centre-backs that can carry the ball like Rio used to. Well, we bought Lindelof for that reason. Can't get a look in at the moment. Rojo can do it as well. Dropped. Bay's obviously injured, so we can't moan about that. But we have got players who can bring the ball out from the back. Because remember, Rojo is a converted left-back. So Gary Burke says Mourinho's finished, but then ruins it by saying let's get Didier Deschamps. That's even worse. Ship Carrick, Fellaini and Herrera and get a decent midfielder, says Samuel R. And the Haytonator says the reason why Dembele is such a great player is because he always drives forward while keeping the ball. We need someone like Dembele. Well, Pogba can do that, Sophie. We've seen Pogba do that. I've said Pogba's one of the best in the world because he can drive the ball forward. We just don't see it anymore.
Pogba can do that, yeah, but he can't go the other way like Dembele can he? I think what they're talking about there is Dembele is great defensively, but when he gets the ball, he looks up and looks forwards. Whereas Matic obviously hasn't got that in his game. I think that's more what they're discussing there. Pogba can do that. Box to box, when Pogba runs, hardly anyone can catch him. I mean, he's done it a few times now. And I want to touch on Lukaku as well. If people were saying he played poor today, Lukaku, he throws off service, and if he's not getting it, he's going to become isolated as that number 9. And so it's hard to judge Lukaku, really, if he's not getting the service.
Yeah, I think he had one cut back from Sanchez today that was blocked, but again, not a lot. The chances did fall to Sanchez and Martial, and they were good chances, and they should have scored them. There's no hiding about that. They definitely should have scored them. Mark Torbett says Matic was horrible today. He's not a long-term solution. We still need another 5 players. This team just isn't good enough. Well, we continually talk about the Deadwood, but the Deadwood seems to carry on regardless. What is your thoughts on Matic? A dreadful performance from him today. Really good pass to Martial, but even if we'd scored that, I mean, people don't seem to grasp that just because a striker misses a chance or scores a chance, it doesn't. You know, Lingard could have scored in the last minute. It wouldn't excuse the fact that he was dreadful for the last 89. It just would have been great to get a draw. But Matic, again, not very good. Not been good for a while. What do you think's the issue with Matic?
Matic's just very one-dimensional, isn't he? He just keeps it ticking. He's very, you could say, boring. And like you said earlier, doesn't pass forwards that much, just keeps the ball rolling. For me, he's like a poor man's Michael Carrick. Carrick was absolutely fantastic in that role. Got no future, sadly. But yeah, Matic, he started off so well, but that was when we were steamrolling teams. And as soon as a team sits in against us, we haven't got that creativity. And for me, it stems from the centre-backs and Matic. We've got nobody who'll really drive at the opposition and play that killer pass. Pogba can do that, yeah, but it's hard when everyone's camped in behind. Matic doesn't seem to have that quality, whereas Carrick does.
It's interesting that you mentioned the Carrick thing because one of Carrick's big weaknesses as he got older, I remember it against Liverpool a year ago at Old Trafford, is Matic's weakness as well. It's when they get the high press on them, they just get swamped. Carrick used to be able to deal with it, but I think because he's got older and he's lost that bit of movement, it is a weakness of Carrick's. But Matic is the same. If you get around Matic, I mean, Ali Zed just says he's fading. You get around Matic and he struggles, and it's amazing. David C there saying Matic is only fit enough to be a bench player. I am concerned about Matic. I never wanted him. I thought he started off really well, like you said, but that was against teams that really predominantly are teams down near the bottom of the league. And I don't think he's really set the world on fire for a long time. I think Arsenal was probably his last decent game, which was, what, 3 months ago. I wish we'd got Fabinho. I wished it in the summer. I really wish we had, but we've got Matic. And the problem with Matic is, pretty sure he's 29, 30 in the summer, and he's already looking like a player that's fading fitness-wise and speed-wise. And that, I said this a couple of weeks ago. If we'd said this 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I always said it myself. Mourinho's signings, I said, if you can find me a manager who gets 80% of their signings right, then I'll call you a liar, because a lot of people get signings wrong, and an 80% strike rate is really good. Suddenly, it doesn't look so good for him. Matic, debatable whether he's a good signing. Lindelof, you'd have to say, is a bad signing because he's not using him. Lukaku, I think, has been good in relation to his goals to game ratio. Pogba, the jury's out again. Mkhitaryan, clearly a flop. Bailly, always injured. Zlatan was good until he had a bad injury. So it is, you know, I think more eyes are starting to turn on to Mourinho. I don't like that. I still think, I agree with you. I think he's the right man. Who else would you go for? But I can see, I know the one thing I would say, and I'd like to get your opinion on it, Sophie, is that I said this today, and I've said it a few times. I've always been really confident that Mourinho will bring the glory days back to United and win us a title. I think over the last few weeks, I'm not that confident anymore. I still think he can, but I'm not going to start making statements that he definitely will. I think he's in for a defining 6 months.
I think if Mourinho's going to achieve anything at United, he's going to have to change the style of play. This style of play may have worked in the past, but look how much better Man City have got. Look how much better Liverpool have got. Spurs as well are pushing now. And we seem to be staying stationary. We don't seem to be improving. Our style of play isn't changing. And people have figured us out. Every other team we play against now parks of us, and we really struggle. Look at Newcastle today. And they will be absolutely buzzing with that. They were in really bad form, and they've gone and got a win against us. And you know what? I wasn't feeling very confident before today's game either. And that's all down to the style of play. Our style of play needs, if we're going to get anywhere, if Mourinho's going to achieve anything with United, the style of play needs to change, and that's a fact. And I'm very similar to you, Mark. I'm full on back Mourinho, but my confidence in him is definitely getting a lot less now. And yeah, I don't have as much faith in him as I did before.
Suleiman009's made a contribution. He says Matic shouldn't be a CDM. He's good on the ball and wins tackles. He should be a centre midfielder. He simply can't do what Carrick or Fabinho can do and control the tempo, which I think's a really good point there. Please do drop a like on the video. Let's see if we can get to 500 whilst we are live. I tell you what, we've been on about this on the United Stand for a long time, and so have you lot, as United Standers in the live comments. We've been talking about how United are so slow at moving the ball, and I think that comes from Matic and Pogba to a certain extent, and the back four. So slow from back to front. I didn't watch Liverpool v Southampton today, but it was on after the United game, and I was doing the match reaction call in for an hour afterwards, and it stayed on. And Liverpool's first goal, I couldn't believe it, because as a United fan who watches United every week, it was like watching something foreign. I couldn't understand what was happening. And basically, first goal, Liverpool end up in a situation where they've got a 3-on-2, and it's a simple pass, and it's Firmino. We never see United do that. We sometimes, like Martial, it's a good pass, defence splitting, but we're never running at a team like where you've got to work the goal. You know, a defence splitting pass one-on-one, okay, we sometimes do that. But this goal was like, you've got them on the ropes. They are stretched, and Liverpool run at them, score a goal. And you see City do it all the time. We never stretch teams, do we? It's always so slow, and teams are always set with two banks of fours. You know, Old Trafford at Huddersfield last week was a prime example. Loads of possession, when we had loads of possession today, but it's side to side because they're well set, because we don't stretch, we're not quick enough.
Yeah, I remember very distinctly against Huddersfield, I think it was. We were on the counter-attack, Lukaku was running with the ball. Loads of space to run into, and rather than running into it, he passed it to, I think we're on the halfway line now, he passes it to Mata, and it just slows the attack right down. And if that was City, in a matter of seconds, they would be literally in the opposition's box. But no, we play the safe pass, whereas Lukaku could have run into acres of space, and he touched it to Mata on the left. And again, obviously Mata isn't the quickest, and it just slowed the attack right down. And we seem to do far too much of that. We just lack that conviction in the counter-attack or in any attack. We're just far too slow, and it's like we're giving the other team a chance to get set again.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, Andrew Kay says, I watched part of the Liverpool match. They made more chances in 20 minutes than we have in a month. And that might sound a bit sensationalist, but I guarantee it's probably not far off. We're just so slow. I don't think Liverpool will rip us a new one at Old Trafford, breach 69. I actually think we'll probably beat Chelsea, because I think United, with the players they've got, can raise their game in a game and get a result. And defensively, we're not bad. It's just creatively, we're not good. And we're too slow. It's too slow. And do you think that comes from the manager, or do you think that comes from the players? Because we did have a manager that was very side-to-side Van Gaal, and you play football, I've played football, and if you play under a certain style for a couple of years, it can sort of become embedded in you. But having said that, we've seen Herrera this year become a player that doesn't want to pass forward anymore, when he always did. And I've always been quite curious and we're concerned about that maybe players are being told to slow the play down and, you know, not stretch. I don't understand why you wouldn't want to stretch a team. I can't see the negative in getting at a team fast, because you're doing it on the other end of the pitch, but we don't seem to want to do it.
No, and I do think it's coming from Mourinho. I didn't want to believe that, but it's got to be, hasn't it? At the end of the day, we've got new personnel in, and we're still playing that way. So I think it's got to be coming from Mourinho. And I'll also say as well, when watching United, sometimes I feel like I'm watching a bunch of individuals on the pitch. It doesn't feel like a team. There's been a few times where Pogba's been running through and it's just a simple pass to the side, and he hasn't done it. He's tried to shoot himself, it's got blocked. And just decision making like that in the final third. And I think a lot of the time, it's like I'm watching a bunch of individuals, and at the end of the day, it's a team game. And sometimes I just don't feel like I'm watching a team.
Yeah, Stephen Wallocks has made a contribution. He says, break the bank to sign Pochettino. Mourinho's the wrong guy. The tram's so far off the team. He said he did put tram. The team's so far off a title winning team, it's scary. We've got Sevilla coming up, who not had a great season, but they're not a bad side. They're a good footballing side. Well, I say good footballing side. They play a certain way. They're not having a fantastic season. Champions League. A team that moves the ball quite quickly. Are you concerned? What are you expecting from us in the Champions League? I mean, we're not playing this week; it's the week after. But some people seem to think we can win the Champions League. I think they're drunk.
I don't think we'll win the Champions League, but I wouldn't be surprised if we actually do a bit better in the Champions League, because Mourinho obviously is used to that style of football, and I could see us getting a good result against Sevilla. I don't think we'll win it. I said all along, maybe semi-finals. Depends who you get drawn against. But yeah, I think we'll beat Sevilla. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of our better performances in the Champions League this season.
Let's bring it back to the top four. A terrible weekend for Manchester United. Really, really bad. And the concerning thing is that you could go from second to fifth and out of the top four in the blink of an eye now. You lose games to Newcastle, you draw at home to teams like Burnley and Southampton, and you're going to get caught, aren't you? That's the problem. We had a good January, but this is bad, terrible result today for United. We've got 56, Liverpool have got 54, so they're only 2 points behind us. Spurs have got 52 in fourth, they're only 4 points behind us. They'll drop to fifth, 4 points behind us, if Chelsea, as expected, beat West Brom tomorrow. And then Chelsea will be 3 points behind us, and we play each other next. So effectively, 4 points will separate second to fifth. It's no longer a cushion that we were quite enjoying. It's now one more slip and we're in a lot of trouble. And there are fixtures where we could slip. I mean, does top four concern you? I mean, worst case scenario, knocked out the Champions League, down to fifth. I don't think we'll get caught by Arsenal. And that's no Champions League football next year.
Concerns me is that the fact that we're having a dip in form when everyone around us is having a real push and a real boost in form. So something needs to change quickly. I am concerned about it now. I said all along we'd get second, but the fact that you've got Liverpool and Spurs pushing behind us worries me. We've obviously still got to play as well. A lot of big teams. We've got a lot of fixtures that could really, really affect us. So for me, we need a serious boost in form, and we need something to go our way in the coming weeks, because at the moment it's looking more and more likely that we're going to keep dropping down the table. And obviously I don't want that to happen, but it's a fear. And the fact that we look low on confidence and hit a really bad vein of form at probably the worst time, because everyone around us is playing so well. I think the only thing that we can hope for is that Spurs, yeah, they'll play well in the big games, but then they'll slip up against poorer teams, and I'm hoping that they'll drop some silly points. And the same with Liverpool as well. But yeah, I am fearing, definitely.
Lynn Hall says, felt demoralised today. So many things wrong. Bad performance, few chances, not feeling full of hope right now. We could be out of every competition very soon and struggling for top 4. I think we'll get top 4. And I think we'll get top 4 because of the fans. Because we've got Chelsea at home in a couple of weeks. And I think the crowd will get us 3 points. And I think we've got enough players who will raise it for that. And funny enough, I think those players could be a Marcus Rashford, could be a Jesse Lingard. Somebody who gets it, and I know Lingard was crap today, but stick him on the... I'm not necessarily saying drop Lingard, because I think he does get it energy-wise. I just think as a number 10, he's rubbish. Put him on the right wing. He's fast. He can run with the ball, and he can probably cross the ball. Put him on the right. Just don't play him at number 10. Put Sanchez at number 10. Put Martial on the left. Yeah, I think we'll beat Chelsea at home. I think we can beat Liverpool at home, and that sounds really weird at the moment, but we can. Again, the Old Trafford crowd, and if you get 6 points from those two, obviously they're 6 pointers in themselves because you're beating a rival. Obviously, we've got the City at the Etihad. I can't see us getting anything there. But we've got Arsenal back at Old Trafford as well. So the only tough game we've got on paper is City away. And if we can win all our home games against the tough teams, we'll get top 4. I don't think it's going to be comfortable, but we've got to get top 4. We've got to be in the Champions League, and I don't think we're going to win it. So Joe 1 says, Jose was never a footballer. It shows in his lack of style. He doesn't know how to play football, only how to win, which is all fine until you've been sussed. Jose's been sussed. I disagree with that. Wenger was never a footballer of any level either, and his teams have always had a good psychology to football approach. And yeah, I don't think that's why we're not playing football. I just think Mourinho's quite methodical, and he's quite happy to win a game 1-0. Maybe, well, it's fair to say that over the last few years he's been a manager, he's a winner, and he's not necessarily bothered about shutting up shop at 1-0. He did it for years at Chelsea. One question I did want to ask Sophie and everybody else as well, it sort of came up today. We bought Sanchez in January. He's a good signing. I think we're using him in the wrong position. But our midfield is just derelict. Matic has been poor, and that's not sudden. Pogba... we're too reliant on Pogba, as we see at the moment when he plays badly. Herrera's been bad all season. McTominay's a kid. The Fellaini injury, obviously didn't know that was coming. Carrick's been out most season. We knew we were coming to a point of the season where we've got big games. We're in 2 big tournaments, FA Cup and Champions League. Do you think it was neglectful not to go and buy a midfielder? Or at least bring Fosu Mensah back?
Yeah, I do. We all said at the time that we didn't think Matic was the right guy. It seemed like Matic was the easy option. Mourinho had worked with him before, he knew him quite well. And it seems like that was the easy signing to make at the time. Kind of like a short-term fix, but it's a long-term problem, and we definitely need more quality in that midfield. Because at the end of the day, it's affecting Pogba as well. We're not seeing the best of Pogba, and I genuinely think it's because he's not got security in there with him. He needs people who are going to allow him to roam, allow him to be free. And then obviously when Matic gets caught out because he's doing a 2-man job, then it looks bad on Pogba and people are slating him. I mean, I know Graham Souness was bitter again about it and saying that he's got schoolboy positioning. But he will have, because he's not a defensive midfielder, and that's why we need someone else in there. And I do think that we made a mistake in the summer by not signing another midfielder. I think Matic was just a short-term, easy signing to make.
Yeah, well, it is funny because we could have just brought Matic back, couldn't we? And not Matic back, we could have brought Fosu Mensah back. But I do think midfield-wise today, if you'd seen it, you've got Matic and Pogba both having a dreadful game. He's got to bring 36-year-old Carrick on, and McTominay, who he ain't ready for that. Whether he is ever going to be ready for it, he's not ready for that. Last 15 minutes of a game, we need to win. We're 1-0 down, and you're chucking a kid on in an environment like that who's physically not ready for it. I thought that was almost... could have been... well, it's just not right to chuck a young kid into that. People were on about Tahith Chong today, and I said, look, maybe he is ready, but you can't... the whole thing with youth players is you don't chuck them into an environment that's pressured and the team's not playing well. You know, Ryan Giggs made his debut at 17 with the likes of Hughes and McClare, and, you know, a fantastic side, and you can't chuck them into that sort of environment. I mean, the worst the class of '92 got beat on the opening day of the season against Aston Villa. And Hansen said you can't win anything with kids, and we did chuck them in the deep end. Having said that, they had Roy Keane and Schmeichel in the same team, so they had leaders on the pitch. That was something else I was going to say. We don't have any leaders on the pitch. We don't. When we go 1-0 down like that, I don't want to say Roy Keane because it's a bit like talking about Sir Alex Ferguson, the greatest sports manager ever, and for me, Roy Keane was the greatest captain ever in my lifetime. And I just look at United on that pitch and I can see the ghost of Roy Keane when we concede a goal like that, grabbing Matic and Pogba and smashing their heads together. And just half a player like that would be great. We've got nobody who grabs hold of the team. And they don't have to be the best player in the world. You know, Gary Neville wasn't the best player in the world. John Terry is not the best player in the world. But what they are is they are great leaders. And we just miss a leader. They're so leaderless. Yeah,
and that's what I mean by a team of individuals. We've got nobody who's going to grab the game by the scruff of the neck, and we've got big players like Pogba, for example, but when they go and get stuff, let's face it, they haven't proved their worth, have they? And they haven't grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck. We've got nobody who can do that in a United shirt. Zlatan is probably the closest we have to a leader, and he's sat watching at home, and we've got nobody. I can't think of one player who I would say is a leader in that United squad. I can't think of one.
Lynn Hall says, get Vidal, he would lead this team from the off. I'll tell you what, I wish I was good enough. I wish most of the live comments were good enough. Even Sophie, if he could play mixed sports. I just wish that somebody with the passion like we have, who gets what Manchester United is about, could get on that pitch. Because people say, oh, there aren't any leaders in football anymore. Well, we're all sat here tonight on a Sunday night, 2,000 of us, passionately saying, this isn't good enough, this is not what United are about. There must be some footballers out there who would put a Manchester United shirt on, who've got the ability, who would kick that team up the arse. It can't just be, or maybe that is the problem with football now. Maybe the only people who've got passion are the fans, because everybody else is too busy making their money and they're detached. They just want to play football and, you know, have a kickabout, but they don't actually bleed for the club anymore. But I disagree with that, because I still think there are footballers like that. I look at the effort levels of someone like an Alexis Sanchez. They're great. He's not a leader, but you know, you can put your effort levels. But I just wish we had a leader, and it's so difficult. I think actually Fosu Mensah could be in a few years' time. I look at him for Palace. He's just got that determination and speed, and I don't want to talk about what a player he is. I think he's a great player, and I think he will be. But he has got that tenacity, he has got that fight in him, and that's what we need. Just somebody to grab hold of the team, and we haven't got it.
We haven't. I literally cannot think of one. I went to the Southampton game, like I mentioned, and I said after the game that Mata, for me, was the only player who actually looked like he was bothered. He was running and getting the ball, he was chucking the ball at the Southampton players. And when Mata is probably the player who's showing the most fight, that's worrying. Because he's like the least leadership-driven person that I can think of. But he was the one who was trying to grab the game by the scruff of the neck. So that just highlights it to me, that fact that we just simply don't have a leader at all.
Theon says Fellaini's got passion. I think you're confusing passion with leadership. He's not a leader. He likes to throw an elbow. He's not a leader. And June Jerome said, stop with this leader rubbish. Well, mate, maybe you didn't watch United with some of the leaders we've had in the past. Robson, Keane, even Steve Bruce, even Gary Neville when he was captain. You know, it's just somebody who grabs hold of the team. It's somebody who gives people a telling off. There's nobody. The trouble is, I don't mind if people make mistakes like Pogba, Smalling, Matic, whatever. It's not, the mistakes are fine. It's just the fact that the heads drop. The heads don't drop if you've got a leader. It's not always about telling them up. It's about getting their heads up, and nobody does it. And Mourinho looks quite passive on the side as well. I think it's a really, really big thing. Anyway, I'm going to try and add flexing, because he has messaged me to say, can you get me on, even though he's driving back. So I don't know whether he's got anything good to say, but let's see. Let's add him, see what he says. We might get him, we might not. Lukaku does grab hold of the team, says Degree Fuser. He's not a leader though. Flex, can you hear me?
Hang on a sec, mate.
Alright, I think we've got him. Hello, you alright?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
We're just into the last 10 minutes of the show, and we've covered quite a lot. But I know you're coming back from Newcastle, so the floor's yours. Really, we've spoken about whether it's Mourinho's fault, obviously what Jeff Shreve said to you about Pogba and him being fit and obviously not playing very well. Martial, we've spoken about him. The lack of identity of United, the lack of a leader, the lack of not getting a midfielder in January when we're so short and having to chuck a kid in and a 36-year-old. What's your thought as you're driving back about United, and what are your concerns, or what do you think we're going to do with the rest of the season, considering 4 points now separate second to 5?
Yeah, the biggest concern obviously is securing that top 4. I think Liverpool have won as well, haven't they? So yeah. It's getting tighter and tighter, and we were in such a strong position earlier in the season. Although we knew we weren't going to win the league, we still had a nice little cushion in at second. And now that cushion is really not a cushion anymore. It's diminishing by the week. You know, we're in a bad run of form. We've been just trying to scrape some results together, and it's just been a bit mishmash at the minute. I mean, even last week's game, we managed to scrape through, and you kind of see a result like this happening. It was always going to happen. You could kind of feel it. I don't know, it's kind of like you look at the midfield. I'm really worried about the midfield. Pogba, for me, at the moment, I mean, fans were absolutely fuming with him in the fan cams, absolutely fuming. One fan said to me, he didn't even want him back at the club. Now, I don't believe in that. He's sort of saying, what does Pogba do? But, Mourinho's been saying this week that he's a box-to-box midfielder, etc. Pogba needs to play in a midfield 3. The problem with Pogba is that defensively, I think he is poor. I think he is poor defensively. That's not. I think he needs to play higher up the pitch for us. It's really simple. You will see it. Because he's supposedly one of the best managers in the world. He's got a proven track record for winning. We back him, but he's not seeing basic things. Luke Shaw not in the side again today. In my player ratings, I kind of said, well, Ashley Young wasn't the worst player on the pitch, far from, but he didn't do anything that made me think, yeah, that's why he's starting over Shaw. And it seems like anytime Mourinho kind of does something where we think, yeah, Mourinho's on board, he instantly makes another decision where we're like, oh, hang on a minute, that's a bit weird. Now, what I will say is that I was very torn today between a bad day at the office and a very, very poor performance. It was hard to, because it was such a massive kick in the teeth losing the game. When I spoke to Jeff Shreve from Sky Sports, he did kind of make me change my mindset. I think it was easier for him because he just spoke to Jose, and Jose was kind of saying it was a bad day at the office. On a different day, we do score today. We had chances to win the game. Martial would 9 times out of 10 score the chance that he missed today. So it is a little bit of a bad day at the office, but there were times today where we were playing, and I just looked at us and I just thought, what are we doing? Like, we're playing against a team who is probably going to get relegated. They have no confidence. They haven't won a game in God knows how long. And there were periods where we didn't look like creating anything. There were periods where we were going sideways, going backwards. But that's what we've been seeing. That's what we've been seeing. We're not progressing. I look at the back 4. It's the same as when we had Fergie. We're saying the same stuff. You're looking Ashley Young, Valencia, Jones, who had a good game today, in my opinion, Smalling, woeful. We're just not progressing. We're not progressing at the rate we need to progress at.
Cheers, Flex. I'll let you carry through. You got there in the end. It was Dalek and it was cutting out and everything like that. So I'll let you get off. But really good points, and we'll catch up, no doubt, in the week.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Cheers, Flex. I think you're spot on, Sophie. I mean, what you were saying there about the Sir Alex Ferguson thing is very true. If you think about that starting 11 today, again, you've got the back 5 is all Sir Alex Ferguson. They all came in his time. Obviously, Pogba and Matic didn't. Lingard's pretty much Sir Alex Ferguson, came through the youth setup, and then obviously Lukaku and Martial, and they didn't. Andrew Ellis, never been a Mourinho fan. To be honest, he's going to either be very right or very wrong at some point. But he says that Mourinho's ruined Pogba. That's one comment that really did flash out, because a lot of people are agreeing with Andrew. I saw bits of Pogba at Juventus. They were very good bits. I saw him for France, and I've seen bad bits for France. So I don't think it's an exclusive United thing. Do you think Mourinho is the one responsible for Pogba's form at the moment?
No, to be honest, I thought Pogba played at the start of the season was playing really well, and then he obviously got suspended and didn't come back in the same kind of form. And I think he's looked really, really lazy. I mean, we can say, oh, we can blame Mourinho because Pogba isn't being played in the right role, which is fair enough. But at the end of the day, no matter where you play on that pitch, you should put 110% in. And I've seen Pogba strolling around and not chasing players back, and it just looks really lacklustre to me. And I think no matter where you're playing on that pitch, you put 110% in because you're wearing the United badge. And I'm just not seeing that from Pogba at the minute.
No, and one thing I would say, and this is not my thought, but I do agree with it. I've seen people saying it in the live comments before over the last couple of weeks since the Spurs game, really. It's all right saying Pogba needs to play in a more advanced role. It's all right saying Pogba should play in a midfield three. It's all right saying Pogba should be box to box with no defensive duties. But if Pogba really is a world-class midfielder, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He should be able to play in more than one position. When you start making... These are the sort of excuses you make for mediocre players where they can only play in one position. Pogba should still be able to... The talents Pogba has, the ability to run with the ball, switch the play, score worldies, good shot on him, fast, strong, physical, good in the air. All those attributes, he should be able to play centre-back, right-back. You know... If Pogba's excuse is Mourinho's not playing him in the right midfield position, I think we're all being a bit naive to the fact that Pogba has a big responsibility himself. Shivam Tavoni's made a contribution. Mark, how comes when we go 1-0 down in away games we decide to attack then? The team looks like strangers, no fluency. I saw 60% effort from us today. And I think that's the recurring theme, Sophie, isn't it? Really? I mean, you didn't need to see the game. You've seen the comments. You've seen the discussions. Sometimes issues are very simple in football, and I think Manchester United's issue is nobody knows what we're doing. Whether it's the players or the fans, nobody knows what we're meant to do. No one knows what our style of football is. I think the fear is maybe our style of football is very clear to Mourinho. Maybe our style of football is don't concede goals and nick goals at the other end without playing entertaining football.
Yeah, and the thing is, we can't play that way, can we? Because teams around us are improving constantly. We're trying to play boring football, parking the bus ultimately, and then counter-attacking. We've got no people to... We don't counter-attack at speed. We don't counter-attack with any venom. We're happy to keep the ball and be passive. And then, yeah, maybe nick a goal. But maybe nicking a goal isn't working, isn't it? Because we're not nicking goals. We're not really scoring many goals at all. And somebody commented earlier saying Liverpool created... so many chances in the first 20 minutes, more than we have in the last month, which is probably accurate, which is worrying. And the amount of players we've got on that pitch who should be creating chances, Sanchez, Lukaku, Martial, we should be creating a lot of chances and we're not. And for me, you have to point the finger at Mourinho, and I don't want to do that, but you have to, and it's just a massive worry. And yeah, that's why I fear top four, purely because we're not playing attacking football, we're not playing with any confidence really. And I think other teams have sussed us out.
To be honest, I'm sure you would say the same. I'm sure many people on the live comments would say the same. I would know how to play against Manchester United if I had a team good enough. All I would say is every time they get the ball, just get back into position. They'll give you the time to do it. They're not going to play 2 or 3 fast passes forward. There will be a sideways pass in there. So as long as you work hard and get back in and get yourself set, and that's all you got to do. They'll struggle to break you down.
It's like we played to allow teams to set. It's like a training game sometimes, because we want teams to be set and then, we'll try and break it down now, but we don't play the ball fast enough to break teams down in that situation. It just baffles me. I don't understand why we play that way. Like I said, against Huddersfield, there's several times where we could have counter-attacked. I mean, rather than attacking and running at the heart of their defence, we pass it sideways to people like Mata, who've got no pace. And it just baffles me. They've obviously been told to play that way. They must have been.
It's funny you mentioned that Lukaku one, because I remember exactly the same one with Mata. I don't know whether it was Huddersfield. It must have been, because it was quite recent. We sort of got a bit of a break position on down the right. Mata gets it. He's got space in front of him and players in front of him. And he stops and passes it sideways. And then everyone gets back into position for the opposition. And you're like pulling your hair out. Like, why?
Am I watching? What am I watching? It baffled me.
I tell you what. It's not the United way. It's just not the United way. It's not what people are used to. Biosphere says, I had enough, Mark. Mourinho needs to go. Every decision he makes is utterly disgusting. Matt, maybe a bit too far in my mindset. But look, I'm not Mourinho out. I'm not. But I do agree with a lot of people's concerns, because I have them at the moment. And the one thing I can't move away from is the football's not right. the mentality is not right. The approach is not right. And I remember somebody saying, maybe it was last summer, maybe it was 2 years ago under Van Gaal, but it maybe I've been asked it more than once. And I'll ask you the same, Sophie, because I've definitely been asked this a few times. If offered a team that plays really, really well the way you want to play, and second, or a team that plays rubbish all season like this but wins the title, what do you go for? And I think I said rubbish but win the title, but I'm not so convinced I'm right.
No, because obviously we had Moyes, we had Van Gaal, and then Mourinho. And the style of play, you can argue, yeah, it's slightly got better. We made progress with the Europa League, but realistically, on that pitch, when you're watching United, even though we've got so many different players on that pitch, the style of football is still boring, and there's no other word for it. It's literally boring. And fans want to be entertained at the end of the day. So for me, if we're playing attacking football and we get second, I would take that as long as the next season we get first, because that's progress. We're actually making progress when we're playing the United way. But getting second and playing boring football for the fourth season consecutively is just, that's not the United way, and I can't see any way out of that unless Mourinho changes or we get a change in manager.
Tomorrow night, everybody, 8 o'clock is the Skype show, so bank it up and call in and have your say, because there's some cracking points in the live comments, and yeah, really, really good. So thanks for that. Please do drop a like on the video. We're very close to the 500 likes, and I sort of agree with what I do agree with what Imran says there. You know, to say, oh, would you rather win the title playing rubbish or win it or come second playing well? The reality is, if you play well, you're probably going to win the title anyway, aren't you? I mean, in fairness to City, I don't agree with what they've done and all the money they spend, but they've got an identity and they do play good football. I don't think there is no United fan there talking about the title anymore, and certainly we don't deserve to win the title, not even close. But thanks for coming on, Sophie. Really, really good to have you back again on Sunday night.
Sorry for letting you down last week.
It's all right. I can't remember what we did last week. Yeah, I can't remember that one. But
you had a moan about me at the start.
But. We have what have we got this week? Our next game's Huddersfield on Saturday night. So join us for that. We've got Skype Goldbridge tomorrow for you to call in on, and got a video going up at lunchtime tomorrow as well, about a little bit of tactics stuff that I'd recorded this afternoon, so I'll put that up as well. But thanks everyone for watching. Not great from United. I just worry whether, I don't know now, I think we're a bit on a seesaw, aren't we? I don't know. I've always felt Mourinho's the right man and I do back him, but that confidence has gone a little bit, and I just hope we're not going to fall into the situation where we've got to lose another manager and rebuild again. It's 4 or 5 years since we won a title now, and we are fast approaching that 10 years, and then when it's 10 it could be 20, and I don't want to be Liverpool or Arsenal, so something needs to happen, and something needs to happen quick. But thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for Sophie coming on, and we'll be back with you tomorrow night live at 8 o'clock. Speak to you all soon. Thanks for coming on, Sophie.